He wore the same uniform as everyone else, but in that moment it didn't protect him. Surrounded without warning, treated like a threat instead of a soldier, his world shifted in seconds. No explanation, no mistake, just a silence filled with judgment. And then something happened that no one on that base could ignore. What could make an entire military base stop for one man? He had worn the uniform with pride, believing it stood for honor, discipline, and equality. But that belief shattered the moment the military police surrounded him, treating him not like a soldier but like a threat. No explanation, no warning. Just suspicion written across every face that looked at him. Within minutes, whispers spread, tension rose, and something unprecedented began unfolding across the entire base. Orders were issued. Lines were drawn, and suddenly everything stopped. But what could make an entire military base stand down over one man? He had earned his place on that base the hard way. Long days, relentless training, and a discipline that never slipped, not even when no one was watching. To most, he was just another soldier in uniform. But to those who knew him, he was dependable, focused, and proud to serve something bigger than himself. Every morning followed the same rhythm: early drills, quiet determination, and a silent promise to prove he belonged. Still, there were moments, subtle looks, passing comments, things easy to ignore but impossible to forget. He carried on anyway, believing his actions would speak louder than anything else. That day felt no different. The sun hung high, routines unfolded like always, and nothing seemed out of place. Until suddenly it was. It started with footsteps, sharp, deliberate, out of rhythm with everything around him. At first, he ignored them. On a military base, movement was constant. Orders, drills, patrols, it all blended into background noise, but these footsteps didn't fade. They got closer, faster, focused. Then came the voice, cold, direct, impossible to ignore. He turned, expecting routine, maybe a question, maybe a check, but what he saw didn't match the moment. The military police weren't just approaching, they were closing in. Their posture was rigid, their expressions unreadable, their attention locked entirely on him. For a second, nothing made sense. He stood there, still in uniform, still within the rules, still exactly where he was supposed to be, yet the air shifted. Conversations nearby slowed, heads turned. Something was wrong and everyone could feel it. They stopped just feet away, no greeting, no explanation, just a command sharp enough to cut through the silence. Hands visible, stay still. His chest tightened, not from guilt but from confusion. He searched their faces for answers, for anything that explained why he was being singled out, but there was nothing there, just suspicion. The kind that didn't ask questions, it assumed them. Time stretched. Every second felt heavier than the last. Around them the base kept moving, but differently now. Slower, cautious, watching. Soldiers who had trained beside him avoided eye contact. Others stared too long, caught between curiosity and discomfort. Then came the moment that shifted everything. One of the officers stepped forward, reaching for him, not as a colleague, not as an equal, but as a threat to be controlled. Something inside him snapped, not outwardly, not visibly, but deep enough to change the way he stood, the way he breathed. He knew this feeling, not from here but from somewhere else. Somewhere far from the structure and order he believed the uniform represented. Still, he complied, slowly, carefully, because in moments like this, the smallest movement could be misunderstood. And misunderstanding could turn dangerous fast. But the tension didn't break, it escalated. A small crowd had formed now, not close enough to intervene but too close to ignore. Whispers moved faster than facts. No one knew what was happening, but everyone felt the weight of it. This wasn't routine, this wasn't protocol, this was something else. Then, without warning, a call came through the radio. Short, urgent, enough to change the posture of every officer standing there. Their grip tightened, their focus sharpened. And just like that, this stopped being about one soldier. Across the base, movement began to shift. Orders were being relayed, units paused mid-task, conversations cut off mid-sentence. Something bigger was unfolding, something no one had prepared for, and at the center of it all was him. The grip on him tightened, firm enough to remind him that in this moment his rank meant nothing. The uniform he wore, once a symbol of unity, now felt like a thin layer between him and something far more dangerous. He could feel every eye on him, some filled with doubt. Others with quiet understanding, but none stepping forward. Then it happened. One of the officers forced him down hard, not because he resisted, not because he moved, but because somehow that had already been decided for him. His body hit the ground, the impact sharp, final. Dust rose around him as his hands were pulled back, restrained like he was something to be contained, not someone who had sworn the same oath. His heart pounded not just from the force but from the realization settling in. This wasn't a mistake, This wasn't confusion. This was judgment, instant, unquestioned, and deeply rooted. And then over the radio, a voice cut through everything. Clear, urgent, commanding all units stand down. For a second, no one moved. The words hung in the air, heavy with authority. The same authority that had just been used against him, now pulling in the opposite direction. The officers froze. Their grip loosened not out of choice but out of order. Around them, the entire base seemed to pause, as if the weight of what was happening had finally caught up to everyone at once. Slowly, reluctantly, they stepped back. He remained on the ground for a moment longer, not because he had to, but because standing up now meant facing something even harder than being forced down. The silence that followed was louder than anything before it, because now the question wasn't what they had done, it was why. He stood up slowly, brushing the dust from his uniform, but something far deeper refused to be shaken off. The marks left behind weren't visible, not the kind anyone else could point to. But he felt them in the silence that followed, in the way eyes now avoided his, in the way nothing was said when everything should have been. The incident was cleared as quickly as it had begun. No real explanation, no accountability, just quiet corrections, hushed conversations, and a return to routine, as if routine could erase what had just happened. But for him, nothing felt routine anymore. The place he once trusted now felt uncertain. The uniform he once wore with pride now carried a question he couldn't ignore. Because in that moment on the ground, it became clear this wasn't just about one misunderstanding. It was about something deeper, something that didn't disappear with rank, discipline, or loyalty. Something that followed him even here. And yet he stayed, not because it was easy, but because walking away would mean letting that moment define him completely. Instead, he carried it, quietly. The weight of knowing that proving yourself sometimes isn't enough when judgment comes before understanding. But his story doesn't end there, because stories like his don't just belong to one person. They echo far beyond a single base, a single moment, a single life. They reflect a reality many still face, where fairness isn't guaranteed and dignity can be questioned without cause. So the real question is, if this can happen to someone sworn to protect and serve, what does that say about the rest of the world? To watch more stories like this, comment and subscribe to my channel.